Once upon a spooky Halloween night, Arthur was getting ready for his very favourite adventure of the year, trick-or-treating. He carefully put on his skeleton costume, which made his bones look like they were glowing in the dark. Arthur admired his reflection, lifting his arms and making spooky faces at himself in the mirror, then whispered, "Boo!" He giggled, excited to be spooky for the night. With his family by his side, Arthur set off down the darkened street, holding tight to his treat bucket. The whole neighbourhood was alive with Halloween decorations. Pumpkins carved with silly, spooky and grumpy faces lined every doorstep, flickering with candlelight. Spiderwebs stretched across porches, and skeletons peeked out from behind bushes. Arthur's eyes widened with wonder as they walked, each house feeling like a mini haunted world to explore. They arrived at the first house, which had a friendly scarecrow sitting on a haystack outside, wearing a hat that was too big and a smile that looked slightly crooked. Arthur knocked on the door, calling out, "Trick or treat!" A friendly witch answered the door, wearing a big purple hat with sparkles and holding a huge bowl overflowing with candy. "Well, well, well," she cackled playfully. "A skeleton. Here, take some spooky treats." She dropped a few pieces into his bucket, 2 chocolates, a gummy worm, and a lollipop shaped like a spider. "Thank you," Arthur beamed, and with that he and his family moved on to the next house. The next house had glowing orange and green lights in the bushes, and Arthur spotted little ghost decorations floating in the trees, swaying gently in the breeze. "Are those real ghosts?" he whispered to his sister, clutching his bucket tighter. She laughed and pointed to the strings holding the ghosts in place. "Not real, Arthur," she said, making him laugh too. At the door, a pirate with a big eye patch and a deep "Ah" greeted him, dropping 2 pieces of bubblegum and a chocolate coin wrapped in shiny gold foil into his bucket. They continued down the street, Arthur getting more excited with each house. He saw tiny superheroes, fairies with glittery wings, and even a dinosaur with a long tail and soft green spikes. As they walked, Arthur spotted a friend from school dressed up as a vampire. His friend flashed his toy fangs and grinned, holding up his candy bucket. "Happy Halloween!" they called to each other, both giggling as they ran to the next house. The next house they visited was covered in all sorts of decorations. Spooky music played from speakers on the porch, and a fog machine sent swirling mist around their feet, making everything look even spookier. Arthur knocked, and the door creaked open to reveal a friendly wizard with a long beard and twinkling eyes. "Ah, a skeleton has come to visit," the wizard said, his voice filled with mystery. Arthur giggled as he watched the wizard drop a gummy bat and a chocolate pumpkin into his bucket. Further down the street, Arthur and his family reached a house with a sign that said, "Take 2 treats each." There was a big cauldron filled with candy on the porch, and Arthur carefully chose a marshmallow ghost and a small chocolate bar, adding them to his bucket. "Look at all my candy," he said proudly, peering inside to see the growing pile of treats. His family smiled, knowing how happy this Halloween adventure was making him. They continued on, and at each house Arthur found new surprises. A skeleton playing a piano with bony fingers, a giant pumpkin balloon floating above a porch, and even a house with glowing green witches stirring bubbling cauldrons. Some houses had sound effects that howled and screeched, making Arthur jump and laugh as he collected treats from friendly vampires, cheerful mummies, and even a little werewolf. Eventually, Arthur and his family reached a house at the very end of the street. It was the biggest house in the neighbourhood and had the most decorations. There were jack-o'-lanterns with all kinds of expressions lining the path, and strings of orange lights twinkled like tiny stars in the bushes. Cobwebs stretched across the windows, and a big scarecrow with a wide-brimmed hat waved to them from the yard. As they walked up the path, Arthur spotted what looked like a small treasure chest by the door, sparkling in the light. "What's that?" he whispered to his family, his eyes wide. They encouraged him to check it out, so he took a deep breath, tiptoed forward, and opened the chest slowly. Inside were little chocolates wrapped in golden foil and stickers with funny Halloween faces. He took a couple and put them in his bucket, feeling like he had discovered a secret treasure. Then Arthur knocked on the door, which creaked open to reveal a friendly vampire. "Happy Halloween," the vampire said in a spooky but cheerful voice. "Trick or treat," Arthur said, his voice filled with excitement. The vampire grinned, showing pretend fangs, and handed Arthur a handful of treats, including a chocolate eyeball, a lollipop shaped like a ghost, and a gummy spider. Arthur thanked him with a huge smile and a loud, "Happy Halloween." As they made their way back home, Arthur looked inside his bucket, now brimming with treats of every kind. He saw marshmallow ghosts, chocolate eyeballs, gummy worms, and a green lollipop shaped like a frog. "This is the best Halloween ever," he said happily, looking up at the starry sky as he skipped along the sidewalk. His family smiled, knowing that the night had been filled with fun, spookiness, and so many sweet surprises. When they finally got home, Arthur climbed into bed, his bucket of treats placed carefully beside him. He lay under his blankets, thinking of all the exciting moments from the night, the silly pumpkins, the wizard with the gummy bat, and the big house with the treasure chest and friendly vampire. As he closed his eyes, he whispered to himself, "Best Halloween ever." And with that, Arthur drifted off into a sweet, spooky Halloween dream, imagining himself visiting magical haunted houses and discovering more treasures.